Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you. Welcome to the Munir Muhammad Show. I'm your host for this particular show, Brother Mandene Muhammad. Welcome you once again to another edition of the Munir Muhammad Show. Want to encourage you to definitely support what we do here on the Munir Muhammad Show. We've been doing this work in the community, interviewing people for over 30 years now, from your local politician to your international politician, movers, shakers, whoever you can think of. We've been providing a platform for people, and we just want to make sure that we're able to continue to do this work. So with that being said, if you find it in your heart, you got a little extra bit, financially, monetarily, think about us and support us before we have to support you, because in this day and time, the way we're being bombarded, with all the misinformation and the foolishness that's out there, you need particular outlets that's going to get out good information to inform you about what's going on in this day and time. So be sure you reach out to us, 773-925-1600 at Crow, or you just go to our website, crow.org, scroll on down, hit that donate button, and then just so we can continue doing what we're doing, because in this ever-changing world, the technology is always changing. Things are moving fast. Social media is even changing. So we have to be able to keep up with that to make sure that we still are able to provide a platform for you to get your message out. And speaking of social media, make sure you check us out, like us, and follow us on our Facebook page, also on Instagram and Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can be alerted every time that we go live. So with that being said, we're still in the middle of election season here in the city of Chicago. And we're doing our part and bringing people on to state their case, and this show is no different. So joining me for this particular show is our first guest, Mr. LaMont Williams, candidate for the 16th district.
For the 16th senatorial district.
Yes, sir. Welcome to the Munir Muhammad Show again. This is not your first time. Yeah.
Yes,
so, okay, I almost forgot about that, man.
Good to be back.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So how is it out there?
It's hot. so anybody who is out there right now, please, if you can, stay cool. If you don't have a place to stay cool, go find a cooling center. They're all over the city of Chicago. You can look it up online, but it's hot. But as far as politically goes, great reception on the doors. I've been door knocking. For everybody to see out there in TV land, you can see the tan lines, because I've been out there really knocking the doors and hitting the pavement hard. And it's been a very good, very warm reception. I think people are happy to see some youth entering politics,
yes, sir.
And definitely some youth that has experience. Yes, so they are very receptive to me.
Well, you got a young face, so you say you got experience, so you got to let the people know what is your experience. Who is LaMont Williams?
So, lifelong Southsider, grew up in Auburn, Gresham. My mom moved us over to the Ashburn neighborhood when I was 10 years old. But I've been in this community. I've been practicing law as an attorney in this community for the past 7 years. And for the past 4 years, out of my 7-year practice, I've publicly served as Cook County Commissioner Bill Lowry's Chief of Staff and his General Counsel. And so when I talk about having that experience, as Commissioner Lowry's Chief of Staff and General Counsel, I've drafted and helped pass legislation at the state and county level. I've worked on government budgets to make sure that our communities receive resources. And particularly in my race, I'm the only candidate that has that experience, who's not only done that work, but been successful.
Yeah.
But outside of just my professional career of practicing law and working as a Chief of Staff for Commissioner Lowry, my entire career is littered with community service and activism. And so I've been a very, very vocal part of my community. I serve as a coach, a mentor. I coach 7th grade basketball, but I mentor folks. I also help other minority law students, particularly black students who are trying to pass the bar exam. I'm on a board of an organization, MLER, Minority Legal Education Resources. I've been tutoring for 7 years, making sure we get more folks to look like us in the legal field, so that folks have representation.
Yeah. So what you're saying here, in essence, that although it is some things you will have to learn as a freshman state senator, you're not coming in totally blind. You got some understanding. You don't have to feel your way around in a dark room.
No, that's exactly what I'm saying. It's definitely going to be a learning curve going from being a staffer to an elected. And I think that's true for no matter how much experience you have as a staffer, there's always going to be a learning curve. Is the difference is my learning curve won't be as steep as someone who has no experience. And it's public service is a lifelong thing. You'll always learn something new. You'll always learn better ways to serve, and the issues always evolve too. So you'll be learning more and more about those issues as the more you serve.
Yeah, and that's well stated. Well stated. So what are some of the things that you would take with you if you're elected from Commissioner Lowry's office into the state senator's office?
So one of the things I want to take day one, and it's a piece of legislation. It's actually the first piece of legislation I worked on, and it was for our minority and women-owned contractors. We call it the Good Faith Effort Transparency Report Ordinance at the county. I don't know what they'll name it at the state level, but it's essentially a piece of legislation which helped us close the loop on waivers that a lot of these prime contractors were using to not meet our participation goals. And so when I say participation goals, I mean participation goals to have minority contractors on government contract jobs, to have women contractors on government contract jobs. And so, you do have to have a waiver program just legally because of, affirmative action. That's just the way the law is. But with this good faith effort loophole, before we closed it, it was subjective. What's a good faith effort? What's a good faith effort to you may not be a good faith effort to me. And what we saw was before we closed this loophole with this piece of legislation, that's exactly what we saw. A good faith effort to get a minority, a black contractor on this particular project. Some of these firms would just make a phone call. No one picked up one time. Hey, I need a waiver. I couldn't find anybody. Yeah. And so what we did, I like to say, we raised the floor. We raised the minimum of what a good faith effort is at the county level so that we can ensure you're actually trying to call these minority, these black contractors and get them involved in this process. Yes. And right now, currently at the state level, that loophole still exists in their MBE program. The legislation that I drafted and worked on with Commissioner Lowry and we got passed unanimously at the board level, we could take that same template and bring it to the state level. Nice. And that we should see some reductions in waivers from the state contracting, from their participation goals. And I think that's going to be a bonus for a lot of our minority and women-owned businesses.
What's some of the lessons that you can take with you from being with Commissioner Lowry?
There's a lot. So I was a private attorney for about 3.5 years before Commissioner Lowry took me with him over to the county as his chief of staff. And over those last 4 years of serving with Commissioner Lowry, I think one of the most important lessons I learned was patience when you're collaborating with folks, whether it's other elected officials, whether it's the community, whoever it may be. You have to employ patience. You have to be able to allow folks to express whatever their issue is and really be receptive to other points of view before you can actually start working on a solution and find common ground. Yeah. Everybody deserves to be heard. Everybody deserves to have their say. And then from that platform, you can start finding a solution to whatever the issue is that you are discussing. And I think watching Commissioner Lowry do that and actually seeing other elected officials whom I have tremendous respect for do it as well is reinforced that that's something that I've learned and I want to apply as the next state senator.
And I want to ask, potentially you will be replacing someone that's been there for a long time and definitely wasn't just sitting on their hands, twiddling their thumbs. Very active in the community. Yes. Passed, put forth a lot of legislation out there, particularly about the guns and everything. So she was really involved. So were there any, I guess, where did the desire to come, the interest come to run for this race once you realized that she was not going to run? And then now how do you feel about potentially replacing someone that's been such a major, we're speaking about Senator Jackie Collins, someone that's been like a major force in her district?
So that's an excellent question, and I'll answer them in parts. So the inspiration to run came from a conversation that I had with Senator Collins. Once, when I originally reached out to her, I wanted to make sure, was she going to run for Congress or not? Because as I told her in our conversation then, and I wholeheartedly believe, I support good leadership. And like you said, 20 years, she's been down there advocating for us, and I want to continue being supportive. When I learned that she was going to go forward with a run for 1st Congressional, I wanted to let her know I would be supportive. Then I let her know I was interested in being her successor. And I always tell folks this at the doors. I'm not replacing Senator Jackie Collins, because you cannot replace 20 years of that type of advocacy. I'm succeeding Senator Collins.
Yes, sir.
And I want to build off of the work that she's done, and I want to build off her legacy. But what really crystallized my decision to run was actually two things. It was the events that happened in my community right after the George Floyd protests in Chicago in 2020, where, you know, unfortunately the protests, certain folks who weren't part of the protest took advantage of the protest, and then they went to looting and rioting. And it's very important that we make that distinction, that those people looting and rioting were not part of the original protest. But they went throughout the city and they were destroying our small businesses. I mean, I live all the way out in the southwest side in the 18th Ward, and they ransacked and vandalized a lot of our businesses on Western, Kedzie, Pulaski, you name it. And so, you know, the day before, we organized a cleanup. My little brother and myself, we organized 25 of our neighbors to go out there and clean up our businesses, particularly this one business on 83rd and Kedzie. And just seeing our neighbors come out and support each other, support our small businesses, that really crystallized. If I had an opportunity to lead on a larger platform, I would love to take it.
Yes, sir.
And then the second incident was working as Commissioner Lowry's chief of staff. As soon as the pandemic hit, we had so many folks within the 3rd District and just throughout the city and the county and the state at large who didn't have access to resources or didn't know how to get access to resources. And because folks knew I was active in the community and they knew where I lived, I would either get folks coming by the house or calling me and asking me, hey, LaMont, since we've been on quarantine, I can't pay for this. My job has let me go. How do I get access to this, that, and the third? And for about a month, I heard these calls and I tried to help as much as I can. But what I realized was if I did my own town halls, I could reach a lot more people than taking individual phone calls all day long. And so we were all on quarantine. Nobody could go visit with anybody. Everybody had to stay home. And so I started back in March, April of 2020, I started doing my own virtual town halls. And all I would do was just inform my neighbors, my community folks, anybody who would see the link and jump on. I would walk them through different county programs. I would walk them through different state programs and even break down some of the laws that were coming down in that particular session, just so they could see how it's going to affect us, you know, what the CARES Act was going towards, what the ARPA money was going towards. And more people just started to join in. It became kind of a small community within my community of folks.
So you definitely were still staying active even during the pandemic.
I just had to adjust.
Yeah. So what are the boundaries of the 16th District?
So the 16th District is, I always tell folks, it's more horizontal than it is vertical. Going from east to west, it's a little bit of the western part of Grand Crossing and Chatham, coming all the way through Inglewood, Auburn Gresham, Chicago Lawn, Ashburn. And then we come all the way to the edge of the city on Cicero. And then we go into the southwest suburbs of Burbank, Bridgeview, Oak Lawn, Palos Hills, Hickory Hills.
Oh, wow. I
go all the way to Countryside.
Wow.
So it's a really big district. It's kind of, like I said, more horizontal than vertical. I kind of stay between the low 60s or the high 60s to mid 80s, depending on where I am in the city. Then once you start going out to the suburbs, I'm going to like 95th, 103rd, depending on where I am.
Yeah. That's a lot of ground to cover.
It is.
I didn't realize that the district was that big, man. So yeah, you've been going door to door in those areas as well?
I've been going door to door in those areas. I've been going door to door in the city. But you know, as I explain to everybody, you're representing an entire district. You're not just representing, you know, your community. You're not just representing the folks who are supporting you. We represent the entire 16th. And so I've been out in Worth Township, Palos Township, Stickney Township, and I've been all over Inglewood, Auburn Gresham, Chatham, you name it.
I'm definitely curious about the reception in the southwest neighborhoods.
Oh yeah, for sure. So the reception for me has been mostly positive, but a lot of people have been curious. I always get, are you old enough to run? I always get, you're a Democrat? And I'm like, that's why I'm knocking on your door.
Yeah.
But it's been positive. You know, some folks have used the opportunity to meet a candidate, and I hear that this is the first time we've had a candidate come over in a couple years or a long time. You know, you're really out here stumping around, and they use it as an opportunity to really vent their frustrations, and they use it to really, you know, articulate what their issues are. And I've taken it in stride, you know, and like any candidate in any race, you get folks that don't answer the door, folks who just aren't interested, and that's fine. You learn to take it on the chin and just keep going.
Yeah.
But it's been positive, you know, and I've been blessed.
So what are the lessons that you, no matter what happens, that you certainly saw a lot, learned a lot. So I mean, what have you been able to take away from being out here amongst the people? I mean, really being out here in this period of time. Because how long? Because and that's another thing I'm thinking about too. Cause they had you all get petitions in the dead of winter, and now they want the election to be in the middle of summer, and so I'd be curious about the turnout with that. But so you've got a chance to experience a lot, you know, all across the board. So what are some of the things that you'll be able to take with you?
One, cherish your family and your friends, because that's always going to be the core of any team you put together. You can go get volunteers. You can go. Your family and friends are going to be the ones who really stand the test of time. And I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for other candidates in this race, but 90% of my signatures when we had to go in the dead of winter were door knock signatures. So we weren't going to supermarkets, we weren't going out to the place. I threw one event and I really couldn't use those signatures because the folks who came didn't live in the district. So I really had to get rid of those petitions and then basically start over the next day. But 28 days of straight door knocking in blizzards, below freezing temperature, all that stuff. We did it, and I had, you know, my wonderful family and friends to come with me. And so what I took away from that is really cherish your circle, the folks who are there, your support system, because that's important. Because Lord knows I don't care how strong you are as a candidate, there's going to be some times when it's just not your best day, and you just want to kind of take it easy, but you understand that this is a process. So that support system gets you out of bed, gets you ready, gets you motivated, and you head out there. And I will say this though, probably for me, my favorite part of campaigning, hands down, has been talking to the people. I enjoy it. From the seniors to our kids, everybody in between who actually come out and give me just a moment of their time to talk about who I am and what I want to do as their senator and how I want to represent them. But just to hear the stuff that they care about and the things that they think about, that's been the most enjoyable part for me. The other part of politics, not so much. Meeting the constituents has been the best part.
I got you. So as we begin to close on out, I want you to look in the camera and pretty much just state your case. You know, make sure you give your punch number, and it's still a few days left. That means it's, you know, are you still looking for support? I mean, is people still able to send in a contribution or volunteer and maybe get a yard sign or something? So I mean,
folks can still get yard signs. Folks can still volunteer, donate if you can, if you would like. But you know, in closing, I'm LaMont Raymond Williams. I'm running for state senator of the 16th district. I'm running with the support of the current incumbent, Senator Jackie Collins. But I'm also being supported by Congressman Danny Davis, Secretary of State Jesse White, and pretty much all of the labor unions and trade associations. But I'm more proud of why they're endorsing me. And they're endorsing me because in this race, I am the qualified candidate. I'm the only candidate in this race who's got experience not only serving the community as a lawyer for 7 years, but actually doing this work in our community in the 16th district for the past 4 years. So when you think about a state senator, you want somebody who has experience understanding the law, drafting legislation, and working on those government budgets to make sure that we get our resources from Springfield here in our community. I'm the only candidate in this race that's done that. And I've done it successfully for the past 4 years, drafting and working on legislation at the state and county level and working on those budgets to bring us resources. And so if you are inclined to support, I'd love for you to vote for me on June 28th. I'm punch number 62. You can visit my website at lamontrwilliams.com and feel free to, you know, support in any way that you can.
Are you any social media handles, anything for you?
I do have social media handles. I am LR4IL_16 on Instagram, and then Williams for Senate IL16 on Facebook.
Wonderful. Look, I appreciate it. I know you you was in the middle of door knocking, as you say.
Yes,
and,
I was.
You took time out of your busy schedule to come in and give us a few moments of your time. So we really appreciate that, my brother. So good luck on the campaign trail, and we'll see you pretty soon. I'm pretty sure things will look great for you in
Thank
the
you.
end. So
I appreciate it.
So thank you so much, man.
It's been my pleasure.
Yes, sir. Likewise. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. We're going to come back with another interesting guest. So make sure you stay tuned for more of the Munir Muhammad Show.
Illinois' dark history of corrupt politics has returned in the race for Secretary of State. Fortunately, you have a choice. As Secretary of State, I'll appoint integrity officers in every region of the state and audit review committees under my supervision in all 20 departments to protect your tax dollars. And I'll push innovative ideas like digital license plates to deter carjacking. I'm David Moore, the ethical candidate for Secretary of State.
Lifelong resident of the 21st Ward, husband, father, community advocate, and current alderman, Howard B. Brookins Jr. is a candidate for Cook County Circuit Court Judge, bringing 19 years experience as 21st Ward alderman, 33 years experience as a practicing attorney, former Special Assistant Attorney General, former Assistant State's Attorney, and former Assistant Public Defender. June 28th, vote Howard B. Brookins Jr. for Cook County Circuit Court Judge.
I'm Howard B. Brookins Jr., Punch 161.
I've always been a fighter. I came into this world at a mighty 2 pounds 9 ounces, but I kept fighting every day to stay alive. The fight in me continued throughout my childhood and beyond. I always wanted to make a positive difference in the world and to help people who otherwise did not have a voice. Now I'm running for judge. We need judges who understand what it means to be disadvantaged and need a fair shake at justice. I'm ready to serve the citizens of Cook County. Vote for Deidre Bauman for Cook County Circuit Court Judge, the voice for equal justice.
This is Sister Sajda Muhammad. We are proud to announce that the Sajda House commemorative Elijah coins are finally here. As we renovate and restore the former home of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, we have recycled the old copper gutters and downspouts and created a 1 ounce 39 millimeter coin made of 100% pure copper. Each coin is professionally graded and has its own barcode and registration number. This priceless heirloom, made from recycled copper from the messenger's home, is now available at sajdahouse.com.
I love you, Emma.
This portion of the Munir Muhammad Show is brought to you by East Lake Management, innovative solutions for building communities of the future today.
And we are back to the Munir Muhammad Show. I'm your host for the evening, Brother Mandene Muhammad. I want to thank our brother LaMont Williams for joining us on that first segment. He's a candidate for around the 16 districts, looking to replace our dear sister, Senator Jackie Collins, in her bid for the 1st Congressional District. I want to remind you all that although this is not a live show, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure that you follow us there so you'll be alerted every time that we go live. Without any further ado, again, we are still in the midst of election season. We got a few days left, but the candidates, are pounding the pavement just like it was the beginning. And this young man here is no different than any of the other ones. And it's a pleasure to have with me the Cook County Commissioner of the 2nd District.
That's correct.
Commissioner Dennis Deere. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing outstanding. If I was doing any better, I'd have to be triplets.
You got me there. I thought you was going to say you could be twins, but
No.
you went a step further.
I had twins already. I got twin boys.
Oh, man.
So I got to be one step over. Triplets.
Yeah, triple threat.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. if one of them do wrong, you're going to have to pop them all just in case one of them lie.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, look, sir, I know we got a few days left, and
That's right.
I know, we went from one extreme to the other. They want you all to get petitions in the middle of winter,
Yes.
and now they want you to go out and knock on doors and go to tea parties in 100-degree weather and whatnot.
That's right.
So how you holding up out here?
It is one extreme to the other, but we believe in our causes. We believe in the fight. We believe in the people, and I am here to represent the people. So whatever it takes.
Yes, sir.
I was out, when we out there on the street doing no good, it's whatever it takes. And when we doing the right thing, it's whatever it takes.
Yeah.
So when I'm fighting for the people, whatever it takes, and like Brother Malcolm said, by any means necessary.
Yes, sir. Well, you're certainly not new to fighting on behalf of the people. So
Absolutely.
for those that may be in the dark a little bit, just give a little bit about your history, refresh the people about who Dennis Deere was, because you haven't always been commissioner, although you came in as if you've been in the whole time, but you certainly had a life prior to that.
I did, and I still have that life. I am a lifelong resident of the west side of Chicago, born and raised in a little community called North Lawndale. I saw my first murder at 10 years old, defining moment in my life. At that point, I decided I was going to go away and do what needed to be done to get what I needed to succeed and come back to my community. And I did that, Mandene. I did that. I eventually went away to college to Mississippi, earned my bachelor's, master's, a PhD, came back home as a psychologist to my community, opened up a business in my community to serve my community. And obviously anything that takes place in Chicago involves politics. Yes. So I was always connected to Bobby Steele, who I've known since I was 10 years old, Congressman Davis, who lived across the street from us. My parents were engaged. They were community activists and civil rights activists. So I have been around always, and it's always, I'm born and bred to be for the people. There's a scripture that says the poor you'll have with you always, but that don't mean we got to be poor, right? And so somebody has to be a champion. Somebody has to fight. I've spent a considerable amount of time doing just that. Even as a psychologist, I'm down in the congressional records as one of the architects of the Second Chance Act with Congressman Davis. I was chair of that committee. We fought, and I say I went from the West Side to the White House, because I was there when George Bush signed that into legislation, the first piece ever of legislation for ex-incarcerated men and women. But I will tell you that my specialty is mental health.
Yes, sir.
And as we go into this segment, I want to share a little bit more. I get excited, so I'm going to warn you already. I get excited talking about this stuff, so I'm going to make sure I pause so you can get your questions in.
No, I want you to keep that enthusiasm, because I have become a big proponent of mental health, especially with black men, especially with me personally over the, since 2019. I didn't realize the type of self-damage I was doing to myself personally, and thinking that I'm doing good for others. And as they say, if you're not well, how are you supposed to help other people? So I'm definitely, I have the opportunity. I host a radio show on VON on Tuesday nights now, and I've had a couple of sisters dealing with mental health, and it was good. But I thought about it, I was like, this is good, but me
on there.
Oh, as the young people say less.
Have me on there.
But what I was going to say was, before I see you fired up, before you get there.
That is my stuff there. That's my stuff.
It was my mission to find a black man to talk about that, and I finally did. And we had a wonderful time. And I actually have, I didn't have to look far for somebody else. I actually have a cousin that He's going to school for that.
Good.
Now, and he's a counselor, young brother.
Good.
I'm very proud of him.
Who is he?
His name is Joshua Barnett. He's not.
Joshua.
He's a young
I'm
man.
sure
Now. He's going to grad school.
Yeah, I'm sure we've run, because they're in counseling, I know them, and they black.
Yeah. But if not, then I definitely make sure
Let's
that I
make
that connection. So, but that's something that we're definitely going to get into. But I want to, you had mentioned former President Bobby Steele.
Oh, yeah.
And also Congressman
Danny Davis.
Danny Davis. So you came from great political pedigree.
Yes.
Yeah. So how do you feel? What was it like to have two giants like that? You know, to be mentored by and to learn from.
You always learning.
Yeah.
And in fact, whenever I see President Steele, we did a big, I helped I'm one of the chief sponsors of Juneteenth in Cook County. My boy, Commissioner Stanley Moore, and I sponsored that. Last week, we held a 2-day conference around Juneteenth, right? And guess what? We gave away scholarships. President Steele came and was part of our scholarship presentation. So I got a chance to talk with her then, and I'm still learning.
Yeah.
So to be able to have that type of tutelage growing up is a godsend.
Yeah.
When I was first appointed in 2017, it finally dawned on me that every single thing that I had ever been through prepared me for such a time as this.
Yes, sir.
Everything with Commissioner Steele, then President Steele, and Congressman Davis prepared me for that. Those are people who have been on the line, and I can boast now that on the Cook County Board, just like Congressman Davis in Congress, I've held more town hall meetings than anybody on the whole board.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yes, sir.
I learned it from Congressman Davis.
Yeah.
Because we have to be about the people, and if we're going to truly represent the people, we got to get out there and hear from them.
Yeah. And that's one thing about it. He's not bashful with getting those community meetings and those forums. But when I'm listening to you talk, and I know you're such a proponent of mental health and just mental health in general, but health also. I reflect back to our dear Commissioner Jerry Butler.
Yes.
Because he was definitely a big proponent of health. Also.
My predecessor.
Yes, and him being involved in that in the county hospital and everything. And, I think about him and I smile, and he didn't have that enthusiasm outwardly as you, because he was the Iceman, so he was cool with it. But he definitely had the fire was in him, and he was definitely a warrior when it came to that. So,
well, they call me Cool Breeze, right? So I ain't the Iceman, but I'm Cool Breeze.
Yes, sir.
I'm still cool, but he is my predecessor, and he didn't play.
No, sir.
And I don't play. So my predecessor, in that he was chairman of Health and Hospitals prior to me being chairman. So I'm chairman of Health and Hospital now, and I don't take no prisoners. If you listen to any of the hospital board meetings, a board meeting will not go by without me asking, who's the minority on that contract?
Come on now.
Why? Because we deserve our piece of that pie.
Yes, sir.
If you black, you deserve a piece of that pie.
You don't make no apologies about it either.
I'm unapologetically black.
Yes, sir.
And so I'm going to ask that on the hospital board. I'm going to ask it on the county board. I'm vice chair on the hospital board. I'm chair on the county board.
Yes, sir.
And I'm unapologetic because we have a $3.8 billion budget in health care. And the people that we serve look like you and I.
That's right.
The people that work there should look like who?
You and I.
You and I.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yes, sir.
It ain't justice, it's just us.
Yes, sir.
That keep on getting left out. And on my watch, we ain't getting left out.
Yes,
that
sir.
stuff is over.
Yes, sir.
Playtime is over. And if people don't like the fact that I think like this, then I'm the wrong person in office. Because our people have been left out way too long. And it is my task to make sure that we don't get equality, Brother Mandene. I'm not interested in equality. I'm interested in equity.
Yes, sir.
And let me explain right at the camera what that difference is. There is a difference between equality and equity. Equality is you getting a fair share of the pie. Have any of you all ever got your fair share of the pie? Nope. Equity is when we divide that pie up and pay back pay to the folks who ain't been getting their share of the pie. Got it? So I'm interested in equity. Give us the contracts, and we don't want no crumbs. We want big contracts. Why? Because we want you to be able to hire folks in the community. that's what I'm fighting for you for.
Yes, sir. And you know, people say it a lot, but I think that you're a natural fit for this position.
Thank you.
As a commissioner. So, and you know, I normally wouldn't say that on there to someone, but you know, you the enthusiasm, and not just the enthusiasm, but the enthusiasm with knowledge and understanding, and the compassion and the
Thank you.
For our people is needed, because if we don't have anybody that's truly advocating on our behalf, so and it's always confusing when people want to, you know, knock you out that position and try to, and for what, you know, just to. And you know, I'm just saying that not to get any feedback from you, but
no, but I got some feedback.
Hey, put it
Look,
out
Carter
there.
G. Woodson said it best. One of my favorite authors. He wrote a book called Miseducation of the Negro. He said if you can cause a group of people to think certain things about yourself, about themselves, you don't have to tell them to go to the back door.
Yeah,
they're going there anyway. And if it ain't no back door there, they're going to carve one out.
Yeah.
It's called Pavlov, who is a psychologist from the other section of the world. He called it operant and classical conditioning. We have been conditioned to believe we ain't supposed to have our fair share. I'm a psychologist. It's time to recondition, folks.
Yes, sir.
We ain't got to be poor.
Yeah.
We can have our slice of the pie and give other people slices of the pie, and we ain't got to shake down our own folks to get a slice of the pie.
Come on.
It's enough of the American pie for everybody.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this message, brother, to you here. I say it on the county board. I'm nationally the secretary of the Department of Health and the secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services sent me an invitation and said, look, I heard about the great work you're doing. I would be honored if you serve on the National Institute of Health's National Institute of Drug Abuse.
Yes, sir.
Now that's the National Institute of Health. Where Dr. Fossey at? And guess what? I'm the only brother over there.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm talking about? Black stuff.
Black.
Black stuff. We got to have more researchers that look like me doing some for us by us stuff. And we got to have more research done in our community, because the opioid pandemic, and I'm calling it that, is horrific. We got folks laid out in the street dying, and we got to do something about it.
Yes, sir.
So somebody got to be talking about black stuff.
Yes, sir.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to talk about it.
We're blessed to have you advocate on our behalf.
Amen to that.
So let's jump further into it.
Please.
Let's get back to that mental health aspect.
Yes, sir.
And what we knew. What do you think is the biggest misconception about that, especially with our men?
Well, let me say this first. Let me talk a little bit about what we're doing.
Okay.
What we've done about it.
Go ahead.
So when you talk about misconceptions, in the black community, mental health is taboo, right?
Yes, sir.
Oftentimes, if you got a mental health scenario, you ask to go to the church, go to the mosque, you know, talk to the elders or something like that, and not a clinician, right? Because if you go and talk to a clinician, that means you crazy. And we don't use crazy no more. But I oftentimes say, if you're going to call us crazy, you crazy if you don't go.
Yeah.
Right? But we don't use the term crazy anymore. So we have to do what's called a campaign of education. And a campaign of education is we have to help people, recondition them, and help them to understand that mental health is part of health care, period.
Yes, sir.
I'm a health care provider as a person with a PhD in psychology. I provide behavioral health to people who have mental health and substance abuse related issues. And all of us have mental health. That don't mean we're mentally ill, but we have mental health conditions. So that's the greatest misconception, that I'm afraid of it because I don't know about it. So we have to do a campaign of education in our community. One of the things that I took upon myself to do as the only clinician on the Cook County board right now, I'm the only one. There was one before me. Guess who that was?
Who was that?
Congressman Davis. Only other person that served that had a background clinically, right, and had a healthcare background, right. He helped start the first, with my mother, the first federally qualified health center called the Martin Luther King Health Center on the west side of Chicago. Back in the 70s, I was a little tot, but I remember going to the meetings.
Yes, sir.
I've been in these meetings all my life.
Yeah.
And so it's important. One of the things that I did back in September is I declared mental health and a lack of services a public health crisis in Cook County. And what does that mean? If people wanted to go get mental health services, they don't have no place to go because deinstitutionalization is taking place. People have been let out on the street, and those that have mental illnesses, they're actually self-medicating with drugs and alcohol, right? And the people in their households don't know what to do with them. Well, we got to get rid of that. So what we did is I declared that a public health crisis, and in Cook County, we voted unanimously on a budget of $60 million that we put in this year's budget to deal with the mental health crisis here in Cook County. And out of that, we are starting the first ever office of mental health. That we ain't talking about some stuff that we gonna do as opponents and everybody else out there talking about. I'm talking about what we've done. Not only that, we did another trifecta. I declared gun violence a public health crisis in Cook County. Too many of our kids are dying. We ain't got enough money put into gun violence. So we put in, via my resolution, $1 million in Cook County Health's budget, hired 9 social worker, got some trauma counseling, and now we're able to give services to the gunshot victims. Because you know those that get shot up, they got PTSD.
Right.
And guess what I had at 10 years old? PTSD, and didn't even know it. So people walking around the hood with PTSD and didn't even know it. We put that $1 million in, then the Cook County Board came and said, you know what? Mental health is a public health crisis. We got another gun violence is a public health crisis. We got another $36 million put in for community-based organizations all across Cook County to deal with violence and violence reduction. Some of those grants were released yesterday. Another round are going to be released at the end of July, tackling this gun violence issue. It is a problem. I took it from there, went to NACO, National Association of County Officials, introduced it there too, passed it. Now the other side of the aisle tried to stop it, but you know, the kingdom of heaven suffers violence, but the violent take it by force. We got to start taking stuff. So we fought, got it passed. Last one I'll mention is the last of the trifecta is that we declared racism a public health crisis in Cook County because we have to start looking at the elephant that's in the room in Cook County. Remember we talked about equity? If we're going to ever talk about equity, we got to deal with race. And the fact that there is a zip code clause here in Chicago. People are diagnosed with diseases that poverty is based on zip codes. People that live in Inglewood have a 60-year life expectancy. People living in Streeterville, according to the research, 90 years.
Wow.
Why is that? We have racism and social determinants of health per zip code. We got to stop that. Same thing with Streeterville and Lawndale. Lawndale, 70% of the males 18 to 45 are ex-incarcerated. Lawndale, according to city research, is the most violent community in the city. Why is that? So if it don't change, if we don't change, it won't change. And so when people ask me, I talked to a group of people at an event last night, and when I thought about me witnessing the gun violence that I did, I just doesn't happen often, but I broke down into tears, right? Because the work that we do, people coming around trying to play games during election time, telling lies, and our people, a lot is at stake here. Our people are at stake. I ain't got time for lies and playing games. We got to do this work. And had I not introduced them resolutions, this stuff would not have happened. And I don't know if I get to say this on the show, edit it out or not, but when people go to that poll, I want them to understand that the choice is clear. They need to vote for Dennis Deere. They need to point 121, because that's my punch number. I don't know if that's allowed, but I want to tell people, because we're in a public crisis. I have set up, and I'm going to talk directly in, I've set up over the last 4 years for some amazing stuff to take place. I need to go back and finish the job.
Yeah.
I need to be able to help them to create a 911 alternative center for mental health. I need to be able to help them to create the Office of Mental Health. And they need to have my fingerprints on it. Because if my prints on it, your prints on it. Because I'm going to make sure that you hired to come do the work.
Very well stated. With that, I think what we're going to do, we're going to take a break, let you come down just one notch.
Because
you
I get excited,
but I
man.
want you to keep that same enthusiasm. But I want to fall back and talk about more about that because it's something you said before we take this break with the especially those people that play games, year round. I like to call them people call them activists, but I call them activists. They acting.
I love
they
it.
just you got, and it's just that you see it's the new extortionists around, the new hustlers and everything. Everybody's like people are aging out. There's a new generation of those that are sincere, those are not sincere. And I'm glad you pointed that out because it has to be. We can't be fearful in this day and time. We're dealing with the lives of our children. Our
Lives
babies.
are at stake.
Yeah. So we can't play games.
And
with
we
that.
got to bring people into the light.
Absolutely.
Darkness is around us.
Teach, and out of darkness comes that light. So
Hallelujah.
we're going to take the quick break, and we'll be back more on the Munir Muhammad Show.
Returned in the race for Secretary of State. Fortunately, you have a choice. As Secretary of State, I'll appoint integrity officers in every region of the state and audit review committees under my supervision in all 20 departments to protect your tax dollars. And I'll push innovative ideas like digital license plates to deter carjacking. I'm David Moore, the ethical candidate for Secretary of State.
Yeah! Commissioner Dennis Deere declared racism, gun violence, and mental health all public health crises. As a result, Commissioner Deere helped to ensure fairness throughout Cook County, creating the position of its first Chief Equity Officer. The county budget allocated $1 million to address trauma from gun violence and $60 million specifically for mental health. For leadership, dedication, and advocacy, the choice is clear. Re-elect Dennis Deere, Cook County Commissioner, 2nd District, punch number 121.
As an attorney, I was inspired to a career in public service after working with the community organization Chicago Alliance for Neighborhood Safety. More than 25 years later, I am still committed to neighborhood safety. I have learned and taught how important it is to protect everyone's constitutional rights while doing so. Like many of you, I have faced personal tragedy and adversity. I was suddenly widowed with a young child. This experience and many others will make me a better judge.
You are watching The Munir Muhammad Show, a production of Crow. Please take time to join us at Crow, the Coalition for the Remembrance of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Crow is the National Archive of the Nation of Islam.
And we are back to the Munir Muhammad Show. I'm your host for the evening, Brother Mandene Muhammad, and continuing our conversation with the Commissioner of the 2nd District, Commissioner Dennis Deere, who is putting out a lot of good information off camera. We was having a discussion with our brother on camera about the mental health and how it should be dealt with our people. And what I wanted to talk about, what I was thinking about, I know we got county and we got city, but we still in one area. So,
That's right.
How big of effect was closing those mental health facilities? And I asked that because I have a small men's boutique on 47th Street.
Okay.
And I see a lot of people, who are up and down that street, and it's disheartening. It's disheartening to say the least. One in particular, I don't know if you remember. The brother, I think his name was Patterson, that was in jail for a long period.
Yeah, I
of time.
remember.
Right, and even him, up and down the street, I don't know how much money he got, and I don't know what happened to it, but apparently, it didn't help out. They didn't help him out in a way of mental health, because he's one of those people, and he comes in from time. I haven't seen him lately,
right?
But he's among many that I see around there. So, and a lot of times, from my understanding, because with Brother Munir, we used to go to the jails, to the Cook County, and also to the prisons downstate. And one thing that we learned, that a lot of those, even though they had mental issues, they had the wherewithal that they would purposely commit a petty crime.
That's right.
Just to go to jail
and get straight.
Get their medication.
In the cot.
3 hots in the cot.
That's right.
So I mean, even though they're dealing with issues, they still had the wherewithal to do about that.
That's right.
So I mean, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think it's important, number one, that you mentioned that. I think that is why I declared mental health and a lack of services, keep in mind, a lack of services, a public health crisis. And when we talk about something being a crisis, it's a crisis. We're dealing with a crisis here. And a lot of times we don't understand when we're in a crisis. In the psychological world, we call this term systematic desensitization. And it is when you are exposed to a traumatic stimuli, and it's traumatic initially, but after repeated exposure, it becomes a norm. Crisis has become a norm for us. So we recognize it as something norm. Seeing individuals walking down the street, we say, oh, that's just somebody strung out on drugs. Yeah. But we don't realize they got a mental illness too. Yeah. And drugs are being used secondarily in an effort to self-medicate. Yeah. The people need help. So people want to know, what do I do about that? The current system is broken, which is why I declared it a public health crisis, and we're pumping $60 million into this so that we can create a system. Right now, we're working on a 911 alternative system for mental health. So if a person like coming into your store, you recognize that, you can get on the telephone and call this call center. They will route you and send a team there that is specifically mental health trained. Mental health trained to deal with that situation. Right now, we don't have that. During the break, somebody asked a question, how do we deal with that from a police perspective? And I want to make sure that this gets on the air. So, and what I said to the brother is that right now, the Chicago Police Department, because I help train some of them, have what are called mental health units, right? And we can request them, particularly dealing with a mental health situation. Those officers are actually trained on how to appropriately deal with the person that got mental illness. Now, all of them aren't. So we need to request that. And typically, when a call comes in and you tell them, hey, this person has a mental illness, then they'll send them. Otherwise, they won't.
Yes, sir.
So, but with this alternative network that we're working on creating, anybody will be able to call up and they'll be able to get that team. And then the goal is to do this campaign of education around mental health through the Office of Mental Health with Cook County.
Okay. You put it out there, man. That's excellent information. And I don't have any issues with anything, but I want to be able to, as you said, if they really were in need. But I have noticed, just as you stated, that it's not just a mental issue; it's drug related.
It is.
Because they're trying to do things to get the drugs. I never had any problems on it. It's all respect, and that's one thing about it. I engage with them because I had a younger cousin. We're winding down. I had a younger cousin who kind of chuckled at somebody that was talking to himself one day. I was with me. I said, "Don't ever do that," because at one point in time, that was somebody's loved one. They was held in somebody's arms, somebody's pride and joy.
That's
right. I just wanted to put that out there. But we only got 2 minutes left, and what I want you to do is to look in that camera and state your case for re-election.
So listen, we've talked about what the problems are. We know we got a lot of them. I've done a whole bunch over the course of this last 4 years. And it is important that we understand what we've done and what we will do. I'm not blowing smoke. I'm telling you what we've done. Go to my website, www.dearfordistrict2.com. You can Google me and all that stuff comes up. But go to my website. My track record is right there. We want you to punch number 121 on June 28th. The choice is clear. Re-elect Dennis Deere. We not out here and being an activist. We are straight up activists and legislating and fighting for you. Keep me on the job, and I can promise you that I'm going to do the work. This ain't no 9 to 5. It's 24/7. I'm not here for a paycheck. I got a PhD. I can go make a whole bunch of money. But my goal is to be here for you. Use this PhD to uplift you, take you to the next level. God bless each and every one of you all. Thanks for having me, brother.
Man, it's been an honor, so I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much. And I know we're winding down, so I just want to remind you and the audience to make sure you check out the Munir Muhammad Show 7 days a week, Monday through Friday at 6, Monday through Sunday at 12. So with that, I want to leave you with the greeting words of peace and paradise of Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you.